Well, hello, everyone. And for those of you watching, this is Leanne Murner, and you are going to be absolutely holding on to that seat of yours as you listen to her journey. Leanne is actually one of the co-authors in Think Limitlessly. You know, when I first met Leanne, it was such an interesting story. But the more that I've gotten to know her, honestly, you'll actually understand why Leanne is actually on a much bigger journey. So Leanne, welcome.
Thank you, Cathy.
You know, you actually call your chapter What Lights You Up. And what you share in your chapter, I can actually see that what you've done is exactly that. You have followed your path, of where, what I say, choosing to be at each stage of your life. And there's that development that, you can actually see as you've grown from a teenager and some of the stories that you actually share. So I'm wondering if you can perhaps actually tell us, you start off with the opening of stopping at nothing. And that is really how you live life. So share a little bit about, not too much because we want the readers to actually read your chapter, but share a little bit of, how you actually started as really quite young to think about where you wanted to be and the things that you wanted to do.
And I think as a kid, you do have these big dreams, where I was one that always set those intentions and actually started to achieve at a very young age. And as I suppose I was writing this chapter, I realized that as we actually get older, you start to turn off that child that has those big dreams, and you start to think that goals actually just get further and further away. And one thing that I have learned on my journey is that it's okay to have that big shiny light at the end of the tunnel being that goal, but you can't take the lift there. You've actually got to take the stairs to get there. For people that you meet, lessons to be learned, and ups and downs. Like I said, you've got to have highs to have lows, where people just think when something bad happens that's it. It's like, you've got to actually get yourself back out of it. So I think my journey has been a very adventurous one, but also to have all them lows. What I'm learning now is you actually have to have them to actually just go, you know what, I need to get out of it to get you back into that. I'm going to do this, and tapping back into that inner child to, I am going to do that. And I think being very headstrong as a child, no one's not going to tell me that I can't have that. So I was very achieving big goals at a very young age.
You actually say that you also need time out, in life. And I think it's interesting because you do have lows, and everybody has lows. It's inevitable in life. In having those lows, I think it almost gives you that ability to have time out too, right? Mm-hmm. That's the reflective times. And I think you use that time out for what you're then going to do and where you're then going to navigate, because your career has changed. Like over the years, you have done so many things, from, starting off as a young child selling things at a markets, craft things at a markets, to photography, to children's educational toys, and now a multi-award international educational author for children's books. Like, seriously, does it get any better? Even snippets you've shared with me, that you are actually catering. Like, you have done so much. And I think sometimes people forget that it's actually not about, whether you are this or whether you are that. It is what you're actually taking with you. And you are a living proof of that. Everything that you've done, you've actually drawn on that. And where you are today, that's what equips you to actually do what you're doing now. So share a little bit about that time out in your journey, and what you've discovered.
Yeah, the time out that I really did take for myself was, like, I was thinking that I was letting myself down, and obviously I'd led myself to this, But what it was I had just come so far in such a short amount of time. I've always been one to do things for myself where I'm actually getting awarded for things that I'm doing, and I didn't know how to accept it. And the time that I had out was actually working on myself to actually accept things people are giving me, and accept the
accolades, the recognition,
yes,
you know,
that I was receiving, because I hadn't actually got that before. So
yeah.
to receive all those things, I actually needed to process those things myself. And the time that I did take out is what it was, even though I said in the book it was 6 months, when I actually look back, I think it was a good 6 months of just hibernating. But then it was another 6 months of just then setting that vision. Okay, where am I going? And some things have changed on the path. What I did say that I was going to do has definitely changed as well. So it really can just like go within to actually reflect what it is you want to do. So it is good to actually have that time out as well.
Do you know, I think you actually touched on something. It's almost, I think, particularly for women, that acceptance piece is really difficult, you know, in receiving gratitude. It's easy for us to give it, but to receive it at the other end, it's a learning that I know that I went through. And I'm glad that you actually touch on that, because what you've done is you utilize that ability that you share in taking time out, you know, in almost that down moment, but also using that to go, well, what is this about, you know, and why can't I actually accept gratitude and, you know, all of this complimentary things, the awards, what, you know, why aren't I actually going, hey, I've done a good job, and saying that to yourself, you know, in that it's, you are now also showing others that it's okay to do it. So you're giving people permission. And I think we forget that, you know, people need to see us being grateful for being recognized just as much as us giving gratitude.
And I think as well, a lot of mine was conditioning as a child. So I've had someone constantly say to me, anytime I wanted to do it, why do you want to do that? Who are you trying to be like? So I also, anything that I wanted to do or any achievement that I had gotten to as a child, I was then knocked down with the conditioning. So
yeah,
I think trying to move past that as well is something that has been another part of the journey for me. And actually doing things out of the square, where again that conditioning, everyone seems to be, you've got these steps and you need to take them all, but why can't you take that other staircase? Or and actually doing things for yourself. There's just so much in there. I always refer it as the Lego movie, just everyone's doing the same thing every day, and those people that are doing those different things are then labeled as being different, but it's okay to be different as well.
Well, that's actually a really good segue, because you lead into the next part of your chapter, which is thinking out of the box, right? You know, you have not only thought out of the box in the moment, being, you know, whatever it is that you were doing in that stage of your career, but even thinking out of your box in changing careers, you know. I want to touch on one of the things that, you know, I know about you, and that was even the way that you actually looked inward about you being an author. You know, that was a big step of you thinking outside of the box. But gosh almighty, you know, did you take that trajectory forward and then keep leaping? You know, it's been phenomenal to actually watch you grow. So talk about that.
I think that section was, again, back from my childhood, being terrible at school, barely got through school. As soon as I could get out, I could. And then to have something that I was so passionate about in educating children, and then wanting to create something that I was able to put all the information in that was going to keep them engaged. So obviously making a puzzle for that wasn't going to work. And then someone had said, write a book, where I straight away flashback of how bad I was at school, how much I hated school. How could I then write a book to then educate kids? And again, it was that getting out of my comfort zone, believing in myself that I could do it, and just went, you know what, why can't I do it? And then now actually finding something, being an author and educating through books and resources is just something that I didn't think I'd be on my path. But again, where you think you're heading and where you're heading are two different things again as well.
You know, I think that is such a strong message that you actually share, particularly with, you know, our younger generation. I think there's this perception that, you know, students need to actually look like a particular way. You know, it's this, you've got to fit in that box.
Yeah.
And so the education system actually caters to that box, but no kid actually fits in that, you know, box. You are a prime example, you know, of not necessarily being able to fit in that box, but still actually taking away so much through, you know, school life, and then actually putting back into that in a different way to cater to those kids, you know. So you do it through your educational toys, and you do it through your books and your resources. And I think for any child or any parent who is actually looking at anything that you have created, you are the role model for their child. You know, you're actually giving them the opportunity. You're that person, you know, where they go, well, you know, you can't be what you can't see. Well, you can be seen, and you're creating that roadmap, and you haven't stopped there. You know, you're continuing to create. And that's what I love about, you know, who you're choosing to be, which leads into the next part of your chapter, which is about creating impact. And, you know, I've listened and I've watched you just get that creative juice happening, you know, as you start to write, you know, a story. And tell us a little bit about, you know, creating impact and what that is for you.
So on this journey, I have discovered a lot of things that I suppose are hidden. They're not out in the media, that people actually need to know about. So I feel a lot of my generation, it's just easy just to not do it. There's so many easier processes in regards to plastics and food waste, and like, it's just, if it's not inside, or is it out of sight, out of mind? So if it's just gone, it's so seeing the impact of us just changing our life and the impact it's had on the kids and how much they actually want to get involved, I know that's my audience. So educating through books, we've just also started doing, like, certain kids eat a lot of takeout, or they don't actually prepare lots of things in the kitchen. So actually doing some things based around kids learning cooking at a very young age, even just preparing the vegetables and how they need to be prepared. In the veggie garden, how to actually compost your vegetables, and all those little things, the excitement that my kids have. I could only imagine how many other kids have that too, which is then watching a video of one of my kids doing it and then getting that parent to go, can we do this? So then it's then involving that whole family. So it's really tapping into that child to, I want to do this. The parent then wants to spend time with that kid. It's getting them off a device. Let's get out and do that. So that's been, I suppose, one really big thing for me, seeing how much devices are taking over children's lives, and kids that live in an apartment, they can't actually do that. Well, they can, because they can actually do it on a veranda, or and actually starting to be a lot more sustainable within the house. But again, you can't actually see the impact it has on everyone who reads the books, but I can just see what it's done with my kids, and how much kids actually love that and wanting to do things with their parents. So it's really trying to bring that connection back as well.
You know, you're actually rebuilding a relationship that I think we've lost, you know, over time, because we've been so busy. And I think, you know, that's another thing that you're contributing towards, I guess, the way that we look at what life is really about. It isn't just about, you know, a book. It isn't just about reading. it's actually about what you're actually leaving behind as a footprint. You're actually equipping them to think outside the box. And it's not just the kids, that's the thing, right? It's actually also involving the parents, the grandparents, teachers. Like the audience is so much broader than just who you're writing to, because there is that educational piece. It is actually about community. It is about impact, so even you shared one of your other books and I was fascinated, just looking at it. So it really is about thinking about the choices that you make, and you are actually creating a roadmap, I guess, for others to think differently about what they want to do and how they want to, involve the kids. So as I'm actually wrapping up for Think Limitlessly, I want, to maybe share with the audience one of your tips. And I think I'm going to share the one that says, everyone is on their own life journey and you choose to follow the signs that cross your path. How magical is that?
It is. And I think the conditioning is what has blocked those things for me as well. Where I now don't watch TV, I don't listen to the news. So I find all those things are a distraction for me, because it's just putting more information in my head that I don't actually need. And I think that's what it's all there for. So I'm actually now tapping into letting my mind think and actually process things, where before I'd get that thought and then I'm like, oh, what was that on the TV? And having all those distractions was actually really interfering with what it is that I want to do. So now I've removed so many distractions to actually tap into listening to what it is, listening to what like my brain just process and what it is that I'm trying to do.
You're allowing your creativity to actually surface. And I think that's what happens when we're so consumed with the noise, of external social media, TV, all of that sort of thing, right? So, Leanne, we're going to wrap up this. So is there one more thing that you actually want to share with the audience, other than to let them know that you have an incredible chapter in this and you have got, yes, and you have got some more books that are actually on their way out. So what's the message that you want to leave for people?
Don't let your human mind interfere with what it is you want to do. Like, think big. And again, one thing that you've always said to me is think bigger. So always have that bigger vision. But then the thing is you sit there and go, but I can't do it. It's just like, yes, you can. Just instead of saying I can't do it, you can do it, and I am going to do it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
And for anybody who's watching, Leanne, please give them a bit of a plug with your business. What's the name? Where can they contact you?
So business is at 5 Little Bear, so the number 5, not the word 5.com.au. And we're on Instagram and Facebook. And then I have the Leanne Murner author page as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leanne. Thanks for your time. Everyone, jump online, connect with Leanne and follow her.
Thank you for having me.